and welcome to a new episode of Monroe MustHangs, brought to you by the Monroe College Mustangs Athletic Department. I'm your host, David Spiegel. Here with me today is a special guest, the former Assistant Sports Information Director for the Monroe Mustangs, former Sports Information Director, the first ever for the Monroe Express, and former voice of the Mustangs and play-by-play announcer. Currently, he is the Director of Sports Information at Hiram College in his home state of Ohio. Please welcome Ari Ross.
Thanks for having me, David.
Thanks for being on, Ari. It's good to talk to you again. It's been a while since we've been face-to-face like this.
Yeah, it's been a while. We text quite often, as I'm sure many of you are aware, but it's good to see each other once again. So it's been a while. It's always nice to see a face, especially in these challenging times.
Of course, I agree. And, like you said, we text very often. We stay in touch because we do the same thing, just in different places. And I'd like to think I taught you everything you know. So obviously we still help each other out from time to time doing our thing. So let's begin by talking about how things started with us. Because like I mentioned, you were the first ever Monroe Express Sports Information Director. And before that, you were mostly working with the Monroe Mustangs. So we first had the need to bring somebody in 3 years ago when I started in 2017. And for some reason, we had your resume on file. And I remember making a few calls. And we got in touch with you. Your experience for someone just coming out of college was extensive. I really respected that you put yourself out there, got yourself a lot of experience, and seemed like you know what you were doing. So tell us about a few of the things you did before you found us at Monroe.
So I went to Northwestern. I did a lot of sports broadcasting. I wanted to be a sports broadcaster, and there's still a part of me that does and wants to do some sports broadcasting. But I've kind of gone in a different route. I did student radio. I did student TV. I did some behind-the-scenes stuff with Big Ten Networks, Student U and Studio N, which is Northwestern sort of behind-the-scenes production, sort of allowing students to get a hands-on role, directing, instant replay, graphics, and all that sort of stuff with the many video boards and all sorts of other technological equipment Northwestern has at its disposal. I did a couple summer internships, one with Fox Sports Ohio. I worked a summer in Battle Creek, Michigan, though I highly recommend never go to Battle Creek, Michigan, broadcasting games in the Northwoods League. That was an interesting summer. We can talk about that another time. And then I spent the summer, the winter of my senior year on my journals of residency at Sports Illustrated as a reporting intern. I've always known I wanted to go in sports in some capacity. Honestly, I didn't know what sports information was until I kind of got the job at Monroe. But I mean, you contacted me the summer I was in Sioux Falls, South Dakota as the broadcast and media relations assistant for the Sioux Falls Canaries. That's an American Association team that is playing baseball this year, surprisingly enough. And they're doing pretty well. I'm still cheering them on just a little bit, but I remember getting your email, and honestly, I'm not 100% sure I remember even applying to the job previously, but I guess I did. And I remember getting your email and exchanging some emails, and I was certainly interested, and it kind of all came from there.
Yeah, for some reason, that's one of the big mysteries of Monroe is how did we get Ari Ross's resume? But that's not the important part. The important part is we did find you. We flew you out. We met you, we showed you around New Rochelle. I believe you got to see the Bronx as well. And, we knew your role was going to kind of be obviously to help me in New Rochelle for the Mustangs. And you wanted to do some broadcasting, and I definitely wanted a broadcaster. Obviously, we had the opportunity available with football and basketball and soccer, volleyball, baseball, softball. You did it all. So you saw it as a good opportunity to get more experience doing that and obviously break into a sports field. I know just from knowing a lot of broadcasters around New York and all over the place that it's not an easy business to get into, of course, as you've experienced. And, I know people that have been trying for 20 years that still do it on the side, but they have a full-time job otherwise working in sports. So, it made a lot of sense to me that you found something you were going to be good at while still gaining experience broadcasting. And obviously, we really enjoyed having you. I still have people today asking where you are when when they're watching our basketball games and our football games. So obviously, you left your mark here. But what I want to focus on a little bit today is that when you started up and when I started up is when we also started up the Monroe Express athletic department. And while you were the assistant SID in New Rochelle, a lot of your duties were getting things going in the Bronx for the Monroe Express. So we started out there with the Express that first year with men's and women's soccer, women's volleyball, men's and women's basketball, and baseball. Just those 6 sports to start with. And, I wouldn't say it was too overwhelming of a job right away, which is why you were working with me as well and able to do play-by-play and all the broadcasting you wanted to do. But what was that experience like, kind of just starting up a brand new program, especially when you were also still learning how to do the job?
I think it was great experience. I mean, I know I came to Monroe. I'm not sure, looking back on it, if I had any idea what I was getting into. I didn't really know what sports information was. I think if you had the play-by-play part of the job was huge, and I still wanted to do more play-by-play at that time, and I've kind of shifted my career path for a variety of reasons since then. But I think getting to sort of build a sports information department, of course, with your help from the ground up, was just irreplaceable experience. I mean, Monroe Express didn't really have a website when I got there. It barely in its infancy. There wasn't really a social media presence. I mean, you had started some stuff, but at some point you have 20-something teams on your hand. You can't do all that yourself. So you brought me in, and I kind of got my feet wet with the Mustangs. You were incredibly helpful, sharing an office together, bouncing ideas at each other and whatnot. And I think, I mean, it was an experience that was huge, and I have it right on my resume that I built a sports information department from the ground up, and not many people get to do that. And we put together sort of graphics and sort of built the Monroe Express brand. And since you've rebranded it, have new logos and stuff, and I was helping out that at the beginning. But I think just to be able to kind of turn the Expresses into what it is today is just a huge part of my experience. I mean, to be able to build up their social media following, the website, and kind of get my feet wet in so many things and do so many things in a way where at the JUCO level, as you know, David, not everyone does all these things, but we did these things and we took them to the next level. And it gave me such good experience that I'm able to bring to my next job and then future endeavors as well.
Yeah, I'm sure now that you've had experience for the last year and change working at Hiram, an NCAA Division III school, that you've seen a lot of the differences between the NJCAA and the NCAA, and what your expectations are, what your capabilities are, what different things you have at your disposal just because you're in the NCAA. And I know I told you a few different times that if you can succeed with what our limitations were, and that's not a Monroe limitation, that's a JUCO in general limitation across the board, that it'll probably make your next job a lot easier because of the things that you have to do yourself are things that you can now rely on others for, such as getting stats from other schools and things like that. I won't go too in depth about the sports information business because I don't want to bore our audience too much, but just there are definitely some exciting things that we got to experience. One of them that you got to do in my place in your first year was that when our baseball team made it to the JUCO World Series for the first time, I unfortunately couldn't make it, and you took my place, and you got to experience everything that was so great about it. So you want to tell us a little bit about your experience out there in Grand Junction, Colorado?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was sort of the first time I really got to be like a full encompassing sports information director. I mean, at the JUCO level, we don't do a lot of media relations. I mean, heck, I don't do a ton of media relations at the D3 level, just with Hiram, because we don't get a ton of coverage. But I mean, when you go to the JUCO World Series, people are clamoring to cover you. And I think that was the first time I was kind of, not only I was on my own with a team with a number of great personalities who we got to kind of show off, and a number of great coaches who we got to show off. But on sort of the big stage, the JUCO World Series is probably the biggest stage at the junior college level. I got to kind of interact with reporters and get and pitch them stories and get them to cover stories and get us on the local news and get us in the local newspapers, and sort of work to make sure that we were covered to the fullest extent. And we picked up our first JUCO World Series win. The Mustangs did there, and kind of covered that. And it was not only was it a great experience from an SID perspective, but that's probably the most fun week I had over my 2 years at Monroe, just to be able to go to Grand Junction. And I mean, I had been to Colorado once before, but that was when I was 2, so I don't remember a thing. And I mean, it was a blast. The stuff we did before and after, all throughout I think it was a week and a half or 2 weeks we were there, because we stayed the entire time. Not only did we get to see some great baseball, not only did the Mustangs pick up a big win, we went, I think it was kayaking, we went on a couple hikes, just the nature and the scenic areas around Grand Junction is great. I got to meet some great people who I still connect with and know, who are reporters or whatnot in Grand Junction. And just, it was all in all a terrific and fun experience. And I'm sure you weren't too happy you weren't able to go, but I'll be forever thankful that I kind of got my feet wet and got that great experience. And I think it was probably 5 or 6 days in to when the actual games were starting, and we were texting and whatnot. And I know there was talk of bringing me on full time as the Express idea. And I think one of the things we were talking, one of the things you said was, all they have to do is look at what you're doing now, and there's no reason they shouldn't hire you full time. That's kind of stuck with me. It's one of those things where it kind of showed I could do this, and it's not saying I didn't know I could do this before, but I mean, we hit it out of the park. And then you did it even further 2 years ago in their appearance in the JUCO World Series, building on what I did. So I think that experience kind of still sticks with me till this day. And I still wear that JUCO World Series shirt I bought on a near monthly basis. So it's one of my favorite shirts.
Yeah, thankfully for me, our team made its way right back the next year. I was able to go through the experience as well. It was a little bit different for me. Unfortunately, after we were eliminated this time around, we didn't stick around for too much longer, so we didn't get to do the whitewater rafting or the hiking. But we did experience a lot in those 2 days. I met a lot of people out there in Colorado that, obviously you met the year before, and I got to see all the fans that somehow really took to us. I talked with Francis Santos recently. Of course, I'm sure you remember Francis. And he told us about a lot of those experiences as well, and just what he liked so much about it, why he felt like we made such a big impact out there, just on a fan base level. Like, so many people in town loved us so much. And I remember you telling me about all those different experiences out there, all the different media you connected with, and obviously your first trip out there laid the foundation for us to be successful out there in terms of media relations. And every time we go out there now, I think my experience a little more than a year ago going out there, a lot of them were asking for you, saying, "Oh, Ari was here last year, so what happened with him?" And I was like, "Well, he stole my spot, so it's my turn." But yeah, one thing you did mention there is that you still technically were part-time with us when you did make that trip, and thankfully over that summer you were hired full-time to work with the Monroe Express. So then you moved from sitting in my office with me, sharing space there, to your own space in the Bronx. You got to really experience that was when you really got to start everything of your own with the Express. You had updated offices, and the facilities were ever updating as well. The teams were expanding and improving. So what was that second year like for you when you really got immersed with the Express and kind of started being a little more hands-off with the Mustangs?
I think that was when I, and of course along with your help, really started building the Monroe Express brand. We really started sort of doing things that we couldn't do as much of the year before, just because we didn't always have time. The Express team started winning. We had in just 3 years the first 1,000-point score in program history, which we were able to kind of build off of and grow. And we were able to kind of build the brand and excite the student athletes and kind of get them interested. I mean, obviously the social media followings and the websites and whatnot, they all grow and whatnot, but just kind of growing the Monroe Express brand in the sense of, I would hope now at this point, it's well known within the Bronx. So I mean, I can't imagine people had heard of the Monroe College Express before you or I got there. But at this point, I mean, I see the coaches landing recruits on a consistent basis. I mean, the basketball teams are pretty good. Jeremy led them all the way to, I believe, the quarterfinals of the semifinals this past year. They're consistently making the playoffs. They're picking up wins left and right, and they're making a name for themselves in the region, which of course makes publicity even easier. But just the things you're able to do with sort of as the program grows and grows and gets more spaces and gets more resources and whatnot, you're just able to kind of build it up. And that experience is something you can kind of take anywhere, because rarely you're going to get to go somewhere where you're starting a first-year program. But kind of you along with I got to do that and sort of build it up and build it the way we wanted it to the point where We're doing live stats at all home games, which is a rarity for JUCO. We're doing full stats at road games for many of them. We're doing live streams and whatnot where we can. We're doing game day graphics, other graphics, recruit graphics, all sorts of stuff that make us sort of stand out from the rest of the Region 15 schools. And I think that was sort of great experience, and I think people look on that, and I imagine Hiram looked at that and said, hey, that's great experience. This is why we want Ari. And of course, it led and moved the ball rolling, and now I'm here.
Of course, that was a bad day for me when you decided you had to leave us from Monroe and obviously advance your career, get back closer to home. As someone that just moved back into his own hometown, I can't really fight you on that one, knowing, the comforts of home are always nice. But I think one of those things we experienced with the Express too is that, not only were you new to sports information and then somewhat college athletics and, me being new to Monroe when you first got hired as well, but that all the coaches for the Express and all the administrators were also doing this for not necessarily the first time themselves, but they were building up their own programs and their own departments. So I think that was one thing that made the camaraderie with the Express a lot easier because everyone's in the same boat. The soccer team is starting up and it's having its first year. The men's soccer team, the women's soccer team, basketball teams, volleyball, baseball, everyone's doing it for the first time in the Bronx. So I think, it made it a lot easier to connect with all of our coworkers down there. And one person in particular we know is probably one of the hardest working people that we've seen in this line of business, and that's the athletic director for the Monroe Express, Alaire Primiano. She will hopefully soon be a guest on this show as well. And I know, you developed a very strong relationship with her in your time here, as have I. I mean, we both have the utmost respect for her and how hard she works, which is way too hard. Alaire, if you're listening to this, you work way too hard. And just tell me about how your experiences working with her. And I want to piggyback on that afterwards and talk about your experiences also in New Rochelle with Lou Melendez.
I think in my 3 years in sports information so far, I've worked for 3 incredible athletic directors. And I think moving forward, I think one of the most important parts of being a sports information director is your boss and your athletic director. And that's something that people, I imagine, don't take into account as much when they're taking a new job, but moving forward, I certainly will. There's just something about working for a boss that not only believes in you, but wants to empower you and push you to be better, which Alaire and Lou and now Todd have all done for me. I think with Alaire, we're all getting started. We're all trying to do a bunch of different things. Alaire has so much on her plate, still has so much on her plate. But at times we're just able to sit down and talk through things and figure things out. And there's things I want to do, and we if we have the money for them, or if we don't, we try to move things around. Just being able to kind of our job is to promote our athletes and promote our brand and our athletic department. And just to be able to do that with her help and to the fullest extent was huge. And I mean, she works crazy hours. She's always seemed like she's in the office, but she does a terrific job. And we joked that the Express were like her baby, but it truly is. And for all of us who were there the past couple of years and moving forward, the Express was like our baby. We were taking care of it. We were nurturing it. I saw a couple pictures of the Mints is now finally has that basketball floor and has basketball rooms and whatnot. And we were talking about that my second year there. And it's just great to see that things the ball continues to keep rolling. That is sort of we pushed it up the hill, and now it's all going downhill from there. And the coaches are picking up recruits and whatnot. And I think Alaire's just been a huge part of it. She makes sure everyone's in a position to succeed, and she does whatever she can. I know sometimes she has to fight with administration, but she does a good job with that. And that's the role of an athletic director. And she's done a great job. She put us all in a position to succeed, and she's always there. She comes to games when she can and is cheering us on. And she was the number one for the Express, and I'm sure she still is.
Yeah, I'll say one thing that I respect most about both athletic directors here at Monroe is that, it's hard sometimes for college administration to really believe in athletics. You hear about it across the country, especially in our line of business of sports information, that, sometimes the college itself is just not on board with athletics. And thankfully at Monroe College, they were on board enough with athletics that they created a second athletic department. But I think it speaks to the dedication and hard work that our two athletic directors have put in, say that, the college administration trusts them so much and supports them so much that you do see things like, a brand new resurfaced court in the Mints, and same thing for the Monroe Athletic Complex in New Rochelle, that we just resurfaced that floor as well to the brand new logos on both campuses now. And things are, still on the up and up for our athletic departments.
Hey Mustangs, I just wanted to tell you about the brand new Monroe Mustangs sideline store, powered by our apparel partner BSN Sports. Create your own unique piece of Mustang gear by choosing from hundreds of apparel options, colors, graphics, and your choice of the new Monroe Mustangs logo collection. Through the month of September, save 15% on your order of $90 or more with the code SEPT20. Visit the Monroe Mustang sideline store at monroecollegemustangs.com/shop and gear up for the new school year.
So now you're out there in Ohio. You're at Hiram College, no longer here at Monroe, of course. What kind of experience has it been for you transitioning from junior college to a Division III school out there?
So I think it's been easy in some ways. In other ways, it's been a little tougher. Obviously, moving to the NCAA level, there's a lot more rules and restrictions that I have to abide for. There's a lot more things I have to do with our stats. Probably double check and triple check them more often than we would at a JUCO school. But then again, I don't have to worry about stats on the road because I know they're being done for me. I think in some ways it's been easy to kind of step in just because of the experience I got at Monroe, the experience I got with you, and the times I'm able to rely on you and your previous experience. And I could shoot you a message, hey, David, help, I don't know how to do this or something. But I think it's been a great transition. As you know, there were a variety of reasons I took this job, one of which was I wanted to get close to home and whatnot. But I think it's been great to be home. Especially in a time like this, in a global pandemic. I cannot imagine living alone during a time like this. But obviously, neither of us will have sports this fall. But I think, we have the support of the administration. We have a great group of coaches at Hiram, and it's been a really good transition. And now I'm in my second year, and we're getting the ball rolling on a bunch of different things. We've done some larger projects. We have a new video board that's being finished that we'll eventually get to use out on our football, soccer, and lacrosse field. But it's been a great transition. I really like it, and I really like Hiram. And a lot of the same things that I really liked about Monroe are similar things to Hiram. It's one of the things I think that's attracted me to this job and that's kept me at this job so far is the people and the student athletes. And the people and the student athletes at Monroe were great. And I dearly miss some of them. And the people and the student athletes at Hiram are incredible. From our student workers to our student athletes to the general campus staff and administration to the athletic staff and coaches. It's the people that keep you in this job, and they've helped with the transition from my previous graduate assistant to my current graduate assistant, and it's been a lot of fun, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it, even with all the challenges going on right now.
Yeah, I think that was well said, and I think, just again, going back to the people we work for and work with, is that it is so much easier to do this job when you have really good support and people that believe in you and appreciate what you do. So I'm glad you're experiencing that out there as well. The last thing I would want for you is to have left us and then not landed somewhere where you were happy about it. So you were speaking about the pandemic, obviously COVID-19 still going throughout the United States. Thankfully, for you and I who love sports so much, we've seen Major League Baseball is still going, the NBA is doing well, the NHL is doing well, and the NFL is hopefully about to get things going as well and do it well. But what are some things you were doing during this time when everything was kind of shut down? There were no sports on TV. How are you staying busy?
I think part of that is work. I probably overworked myself this summer just because there's nothing else to do. There was no COSIDA convention to go to. There was no summer vacation that we had planned. I redid I'm in the process of, because I'm not finished yet, I redid all our record books this summer. That was fun. Archiving stats and whatnot, but Hiram has a 40, 50-year history in some sports, 100, 110, 120-year history in some other sports. We played the first intercollegiate basketball game in Ohio against Mount Union in, I believe, 1892. We're the only college university in the country with a gold medal. Won at the, I believe, 1904 St. Louis Olympic Games. So there's a great history, and it's been great to kind of go through and figure out some of these names who I see on the wall of our Hall of Fame and like, oh my God, this guy scored 2,700 points and led the NCAA with 29 points per game in 1987. It's been fun to kind of learn our history, which has been fun. And of course, obviously, haven't worked all summer. You got to get outside. There's nothing like the great outdoors in times like this, and seeing friends and family as possible, social distance, wearing a mask, of course. Please wear a mask so we can play sports this spring. And then kind of like hanging out, and I'm sure we all did the watch old sports games. We got into things from our young, and what our youth and whatnot. And now we do have some sports back, and it's great to watch sports. And of course, there's part of me that wishes that worries about the sports and wonders whether we should have sports with everything going on and whatnot. And he's worried about the future. But I think I've taken this summer day by day. So there's good days and there's bad days. There's days I scroll through Twitter and I want to throw my phone at the wall and get really angry at a variety of different things and whatnot. And there's days where the Cleveland Indians utterly destroy the Kansas City Royals 10-1 last night, hit 4 home runs, and I'm very happy. So it's a day by day thing, and I've done a lot of work and I've done a lot of fun projects for work, and I've done some stuff outside of work and hung out with friends and family. And all in all, obviously it hasn't been a great summer, because you can't have a great summer when there are almost 200,000 people dying from a virus and whatnot. But you do what you can.
Yeah, I think you and I have kept busy in similar ways in terms of trying to get things done for work, trying new projects such as an interview series and podcast, of course. And I think that's just part of our business, is that, when you have the opportunity, you try new things, you learn some new skills. And obviously this was a great time for us to be doing that. I know you and I both tested out a lot of different things on social media, doing trivia and wallpapers and things like that, just to kind of stay busy. And of course, I actually just saw a webinar through COSIDA yesterday about mental health and sports information. I was really intrigued by it because my mentor from SUNY New Paltz back in the day when I was a student there and an assistant sports information director there, Brian Savard, was on the panel. So I really wanted to hear what he had to say. But it's just one thing to remember too, especially in our line of business, is that mental health is always important. And sometimes there are going to be days when we, as sports information directors, just cannot get anything done. Some days you have to just spend it on Facebook and Twitter and scrolling through news for different sports things. And one thing to remember is that it's okay to have days like that. I think on our best days, we are so productive that it makes up for the days that we're not. And when things are normal, the hours we work, weekends, nights, early mornings, I think we really make up for it. So, for other people looking to get into sports information or doing it right now, just remember that it is okay if you have a day where you just don't get anything done, because you're probably going to make yourself make up for it the next day anyway.
People are making up for those a lot this spring. A lot. Fingers crossed, knock on wood, wear your mask. But I think we're going to be making up for a lot this spring.
Yeah, I think you and I are in a very similar boat, looking at what our schedules are coming up in January, February, March, especially March, when I know for us, at least at the NJCAA, I think we're going to have both soccer and volleyball and basketball in full swing. Football starts up in March. As usual, baseball and softball will be going. No cross-country season this year, unfortunately, but track and field and everything. Our rugby team is going to be going on. Marching band's going to be working hard to get it to every sport it can. We have esports actually in Monroe now, so you just missed that one, but that's beginning in the next few days actually. So we're excited about that, and that's going to be a full year thing. And all of our teams are really just going to be right in the thick of it in March, whether it's the playoffs or just starting. And for people like you and me who have to be there for everything or cover everything, that's going to be probably one of the toughest challenges of our careers. But we're not alone, of course. Everyone across the country that does what we do is going to be doing the same thing. Some people have more help, some people have less help, but either way, and I know you and I are going to be very busy, and we'll both be complaining to each other about it. But in the end, it is doing what we love to do. So maybe it's a little bit overwhelming, but I think come June, we're going to look at it in hindsight, and if things went somewhat well, we'll call it a success.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun busy. Like, I don't know about you, but I'd do anything to have to stat a football game this weekend. Like, as annoying as football stats can be at times, and how maybe we shouldn't be, we definitely shouldn't be playing football right now, at least at our level. But I'd love to be everything somewhat normal and statting a football game this week. Obviously, we can't, and with everything going on, we shouldn't be. But I would love to be statting a game later today or tomorrow or this weekend. It just some sense of normalcy, I think, is much needed.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean there. It's one of those things where you wake up early on a Saturday morning to drive into work, and you know that setup takes 3 or 4 hours sometimes for football, making sure the broadcast is set up, making sure the PA announcer is set up, making sure that everyone is setting up on the field, even if it's not your responsibility, just kind of making sure that's working, testing out all the equipment, making sure the stats are running, the internet's good, the press boxes, not too hot, not too cold. We have food for the staff. Everyone's hydrated. Things like that. I think, you think about all the work that goes into it and you kind of dread it a little bit, but you also just miss when that opening kickoff starts and just the thrill of the game, the excitement of, getting the job done well. It's something that everyone gets to experience. Luckily, you experienced this at Monroe, that we had some really good student workers as well, and some staff that just really worked their tails off to make sure game day was a great experience, not just for football, but for all of our sports. So I'm sure you took a lot of that experience with you to Hiram and made it your own. Different facilities, of course, out there, but I'm sure you made a great experience as well. And like I said, we both just missed that stuff. And so what are some things you are looking forward to for the next few months while you still have time away from game day, and we're just, almost working a normal 9 to 5 job for the first time in our lives as sports information directors?
I think it'll be nice, not that we can do much with them, but it'll be nice to have some free weekends in the fall. There, of course, won't be Big Ten football to watch. There'll be potentially some other college football, some other sports. But it'll be nice to have nights and weekends free for a couple months. It'll be nice to have a more extended time range to do some sorts of things. I don't have to worry about getting photo day done for fall sports in 2 weeks. I could do it in the middle of October and we'll be fine. I think just the extended timeline and whatnot. And I think it gives us one of the great things. We hired a new graduate assistant this summer. I'm very excited to have him aboard. But now I have 3 months to train him with all the new stats programs, with Photoshop, with InDesign, whatever else he needs to learn. I don't have to throw him into the fire with NCAA live stats in a men's soccer game today, because yesterday would have been our first home game. I would have probably had to be there with him. We would have had to walk each other through it. I mean, I haven't done a game on NCAA live stats soccer before, but I think this gives us a lot of time to get everything under our belt, train our student workers, so we're ready to go come the spring. I think it gives us, obviously it's not ideal, but it gives us a lot of time to sort of get the ball rolling so we're ready for takeoff come January, February, March, or whenever, fingers crossed, hopefully sports start up at our levels again. And of course, I think it gives us more time to relax. We can sleep in a little bit more. We can go to sleep a little bit early. That's always nice. We can see friends and family more than we would have otherwise. I've enjoyed watching baseball, basketball. The bubble's been quite fun. So has the wobble. I'm very excited for these second round series. Although the Raptors look like they're not going to make it a series against the Celtics. It's been fun, and I think we'll make the best of the next 3 months, and then we'll make the best of those next 3 months. And hopefully things start to change, and we slowly but surely see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, I'd say I'm in a similar boat. I'm very optimistic about, some of the things that we can get done on our end in Monroe as a department over the next few months, just kind of preparing for the spring seasons. It's going to be interesting, just putting fall sports in the spring. It's something we've never seen before, obviously, as a regular season. You see all the fall sports have their spring ball seasons, and now it becomes the real season. And you're going to see the spring teams that don't get to play fall ball for real this year because of all the restrictions that are involved. So I know on our campus, at least, we do have our athletes returning. We do have practices starting. We have a lot of safety protocols in place and testing going on, and I really don't envy our coaches right now because they have to work so hard to modify how they do practice. And, I think in the end, it's going to be a very big learning experience for all of us to kind of adapt to such a strenuous situation and see what we can make of it. And I hope, obviously, to never have to do this again in our lives. But I think there's a lot of things we can take away from this. And of course, one of those things is just appreciating the normalcy of everything and appreciating what we have and the ability to go outside and to see friends and see our coworkers. Because I know every time I'm on campus, I look at all the people around me. I'm like, wow, I missed everyone here. I can't believe I haven't seen them in a few months. So I'm sure you're experiencing the same thing every time you go on campus as well. I think you're doing it more often than I am. But yeah, I think it's an interesting time, and I really just hope we never have to do something like this again.
Zoom will never replace face-to-face interaction. It's great to talk to people and see people over Zoom, but just being in the office, being able to say hi to the coaches, even if it's from 6 feet away wearing a mask, and talk to them and whatnot is great. It's great to be able to see people, see our student athletes. We started classes on Monday. We have not started practicing that yet. There's a whole NCAA phase-in procedures we have to follow. So hopefully over the next couple weeks we'll be able to start social distance and smaller practices building up to eventually whatever is at the end of the boat. That's more of a question for our athletic trainer than me and whatnot. But it's great to see campus lively, and we're all hoping it stays that way. We hope we can defeat this virus over the next few months and go from there. So obviously there's times where it sucks, and there's times where there's this great experience and whatnot, but we're going to get through it. So we're going to get through it. And I keep telling myself that. And there are times I wonder if I'm wrong. But hopefully come the next couple of months, good things start to happen, and we start to defeat this virus and all the other things going on in our society, and we start to change for the better.
So we're starting to get to the end of our time here today, but I want to ask one more fun question, because I know, just having listened to all your broadcasts back when you were here, even having jumped on with you a couple times towards the end of your tenure here with Monroe, can you think back and just say like one or two of like your most fun experiences as a play-by-play announcer for Monroe, whether it was for football, basketball, volleyball, any of those?
Well, I think it has to be calling the Eastern District Championship my first year. I mean, I don't think either of us kind of realized what that meant to the team and to Lou and to the Mustangs baseball program in general, a team that had never made made it to the Junior College World Series. And we didn't even, I don't know if either of us thought we had a chance going in. We thought we might have, but I don't think we knew what the other teams were. And we had a decent season, but it wasn't like we were scoring 30 runs a game and crushing people. Obviously, we had Justo, who ended up being a 12th round draft pick, and he's crushing it in the minor leagues. But I think that we kind of felt as the days go on, like we could really do this. Just calling that final out, that was awesome.
The 0-1, lift in the air, this should do it. Encarnacion has it, and for the first time in program history, the Mustangs are going to Grand Junction. The Monroe Mustangs are Eastern District champions and are headed to the Junior College World Series for the first time in program history.
And to be able to go down, and then I realized, wait, I'm going to Grand Junction with you all. And to that whole experience, that was a blast. And I think that will forever stick with me, that whole sort of 3 to 4 week stretch. I think the next year too, I think we thought we had a better chance, and I think we were worried at points too. And then we just crushed everyone in the Eastern District Championship. I wasn't there, you were there, but that was a lot of fun checking the live stats. And I'm like, wait, we just beat Hartford like 10-0? Like what? Like what? I didn't realize we could score 10 runs. Our field is like huge, and we don't hit home runs there. But I think the baseball wins were a lot of fun. I think, of course, with the Express, I wasn't broadcasting them, but just we picked up a lot of first win in program histories when Gian scored his 1,000th point in program history, or his 1,000th point. We had a bunch of other big wins and whatnot. Obviously, there's too many to count. There's so many great memories. Basketball had some great wins. Both basketball teams. Football had some great wins. Both soccer teams had some great wins. Of course, they went, and both soccer teams won the national championships while I was there, which was a lot of fun. Obviously, softball, baseball, all the sports had great fun and great memories. And it was a blast of the 2 years.
Yeah, and even since you've left, I'm sure you've been following along, and you see that this past year we were on pace for such unprecedented success. Every NJCAA program was either competing in its national tournament or winning it, as men's soccer did, and women's soccer came up as the runner-up this year after winning it the year before. And of course, unfortunately, we didn't get to see our basketball teams at the national tournament this year. Baseball and softball didn't even really get to get their season started. But, obviously we're continuing the success, and it would have been cool this year to have your voice on it for a lot of those things. But, like you mentioned, that Eastern District Championship for, a non-national title game, that was probably one of the biggest wins in our athletic department's history, just given how long they've been working for it and getting it done. So I remember I've listened back to that one a few different times just because I know you had a great time calling that game, just like you said, and I was expecting you to pick that as your answer. And it's just a fun one to really watch back. It was one of our first baseball broadcasts as well, because we were in that stadium and had the internet and everything. So what a great experience that was. But Ari, I want to thank you for coming on Monroe MustHangs today as one of its first guests. I will admit that some of the work you're doing at Hiram did influence my decision to start this up. So, as I was joking earlier that I'd like to think I taught you everything you know, I will admit that you have taught me plenty as well. So I'm glad we still have this good relationship, and I'm glad you're sticking with sports information. I think you've done a really good job. You deserve the success you've had so far, and I hope that continues. And again, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, David.
All right, guys. Well, listen out next time. We're going to continue having great guests on the Monroe MustHangs. Make sure you're following us on YouTube at youtube.com/Monroe Mustangs, and find us on Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, pretty much everywhere you find podcasts. Make sure you give us a download, subscribe, and listen out. Thanks again, everyone.